There's a deep wound that comes from being hurt by someone who lacks empathy, a wound that whispers, they got away with it. But here's the truth. No one truly gets away with anything. And when it comes to the narcissists who have hurt you, God is not silent. He is not absent, and he is certainly not ignoring your pain. There's something deep inside us that cries out when we've been wronged, that instinct that whispers, this isn't. It's the part of us that wants to see the scales balanced, the truth revealed, and the ones who hurt us feel the weight of what they've done. It's a natural reaction, one that comes from a place of deep pain. But here's the tension. While our hearts long for justice, revenge isn't ours to take. And that's hard. Because when you've been hurt, especially by a narcissist who seems to glide through life without consequences, it's infuriating. You see them smiling, thriving, pretending like nothing ever happened while you're left picking up the shattered pieces of what they broke. Everything in you wants to see them exposed. You want them to feel even a fraction of the pain they inflicted on you. You want justice, but sometimes what we really want is payback. And God says, that's not your burden to carry. In Romans 12:19, we're given a direct command. Do not take revenge, my dear friends, but leave room for God's wrath, for it is written, it is mine to avenge, I will repay, says the Lord. Let's sit with that for a second. First, he acknowledges the wrongdoing. He's not dismissing your pain. He's not telling you to just move on or be the bigger person. No, he sees it. He knows what they did. He knows how deeply they wounded you, how they lied, manipulated, humiliated, or betrayed you. And he isn't ignoring it. But then he gives us a command. Do not take revenge. Not because justice doesn't matter, but because justice is his. See, when we take revenge into our own hands, we operate from our own limited understanding. Our anger, our hurt, our desire to make things right is clouded by emotion. We want to strike back, but we don't always see the bigger picture. We don't see what God is doing behind the scenes, and that's why he says, leave room for me to act. When we step back and let God handle it, we're trusting that his justice is far better, far more complete, and far more righteous than anything we could orchestrate ourselves. His justice isn't just about punishment. It's about revealing truth, restoring balance, and making sure the lesson is truly learned. Now, here's the part that's even harder to accept. Sometimes his justice isn't immediate. Sometimes we don't see it happen the way we want. Sometimes it looks like they're getting away with it. But what we don't see is the weight they're carrying, the consequences that are already unraveling behind the scenes. Because here's the truth. No one truly gets away with anything. God sees what we don't see. He knows their hearts. He knows what's keeping them up at night. He knows the brokenness they try to cover with, really how to deal with them. So what do we do in the meantime? We heal. We let go of bitterness. We trust that God is handling it, even when we can't see it. Because the moment we stop focusing on revenge and start focusing on our own healing, we reclaim the power they tried to steal from us. Justice belongs to God, and in his time, in his way, he will make sure it's served. Narcissists are masters of illusion. They wear masks so well that even the people closest to them often don't see who they truly are. They manipulate, twist, and distort reality until their victims start questioning their own sanity. They rewrite the story so convincingly that somehow they come out looking like the hero or the victim, but never the villain. And for a while it works. They thrive in deception. They build their world on lies, false appearances, and carefully curated reputations. They are experts at shifting blame, playing the victim, and making themselves look untouchable. They charm their way into people's trust, convincing everyone around them that they are good, kind, and incapable of wrongdoing. And if you try to expose them too soon, you often end up looking like the crazy one. But here's the thing about lies. They don't last. Truth has a way of rising to the surface, no matter how deeply it's been buried. And while it may feel like they are getting away with their deception, God is never blind to what's happening behind the scenes. He sees it all. The manipulation, the gaslighting, the harm they've caused. And in His perfect time, He exposes what needs to be revealed. God's timing, not ours. One of the hardest parts about waiting for truth to be revealed is that we often want it to happen now. When someone has hurt us, especially a narcissist who has spun the story in their favor, we want people to see the truth immediately. We want the mask to be ripped off, the lies to be exposed, and the world to finally recognize what we've been saying all along. But sometimes God allows deception to run its course before He exposes it. Why? Because exposure isn't just about revealing the truth. It's about ensuring that the revelation is undeniable. If the truth comes out too soon while people are still under the narcissist spell, they may not believe it. They may still be caught up in the manipulation, unwilling to accept that the person they trusted is not who they thought. But when God exposes someone, He does it in a way that leaves no room for doubt. He waits until the timing is perfect, until the web of lies collapses under its own weight, until even their most loyal supporters can't ignore the truth anymore. The cracks begin to show. At first, the exposure starts with small cracks. Maybe a trusted friend begins to see inconsistencies in their story. Maybe someone they manipulated in the past suddenly comes forward with a testimony. Maybe their arrogance causes them to slip up in a way they never have before. Then those cracks grow. They lose control of the narrative. The more they try to cover up, the more obvious their deception becomes. The people who once defended them start to distance themselves. Their reputation, once untouchable, begins to crumble. And then when the time is right, everything is laid bare. The biblical truth, light will always expose darkness. Scripture reminds us in Luke 8:17, for there is nothing hidden that will not be disclosed, and nothing concealed that will not be known or brought out into the open. God is not mocked. He is not fooled. He is not tricked by the same deception that ensnares others. And when He decides that it's time for the truth to be revealed, nothing can stop it. What happens to the narcissist when the truth comes out? For a narcissist, exposure is the one thing they fear most. They build their entire existence around controlling how others see them. So when that control is taken away, their world begins to collapse. They lose credibility. The same people they manipulated finally see through their lies. They lose their influence. Their carefully built reputation crumbles. They scramble to regain control. But their usual tactics no longer work. They experience the consequences of their actions. No more escaping accountability. And here's the most important part. Once the truth is out, there is no going back. God does not just expose narcissists for a moment. He ensures that the exposure has lasting effects. Your role in the exposure process. So what do you do while waiting for the truth to come out? Trust that God sees what others don't. Even if no one believes you now, He does. Don't waste your energy trying to convince everyone. The truth will reveal itself in time. Keep your integrity. When their world starts crumbling, don't let them drag you down with them. Focus on your healing. The greatest victory is living free, whole, and untouched by their toxicity. Final thought, Truth always wins. It may take time. It may feel like they're invincible. But the truth is a force that cannot be stopped. And when God decides it's time for the narcissist to be exposed, there will be no escaping it. They build their influence with charm, manipulation, and deception, climbing the social or professional ladder with ease. They convince people they are special, uniquely gifted, or even irreplaceable. And for a time, it seems like they are unstoppable. And for a time, it seems like they are unstoppable. It's frustrating, especially when you're the one they've hurt. When you know the lies they've told, the damage they've caused, and the people they've trampled to get where they are, and yet they seem to thrive. They gain more followers, more influence, more success. You wonder, why isn't God stopping this? But here's what we need to remember. No throne built on deception stands forever. The illusion of power, narcissists don't actually have real power. They have borrowed power. Think about it. Their influence comes from the trust of others, from the belief that they are worthy of the position they hold. But when that trust is based on manipulation, when that position was never earned with integrity, it's only a matter of time before the foundation cracks. Because here's the truth. What is built on lies cannot last. We see this throughout history. Dictators, corrupt leaders, toxic CEOs, even spiritual leaders who abuse their authority. So many rise with pride, believing they are untouchable, only to eventually come crashing down. And when they fall, it's never graceful. How God brings down the narcissist. When we talk about God's justice, we're not just talking about punishment. We're talking about a dismantling of false power. And God has ways of doing this that are far beyond anything we could orchestrate ourselves. Let's look at how he works. One, they begin losing control. Control is everything to a narcissist. They manipulate people and situations to maintain their position. But over time, cracks start to form. They can no longer control how people see them. Their lies start to catch up with them. The people who once defended them begin to see the truth. And once they start losing control, panic sets in. They scramble, trying harder to manipulate, but the more desperate they become, the more obvious their deception is. Two, their own actions turn against them. God has a way of making a narcissist's downfall come from their own hands. The very things they use to build themselves up, charm, manipulation, deception, become the tools of their destruction. Their lies start contradicting each other. The people they used turn on them. The situations they thought they had control over spiral beyond their grasp. Galatians 6:7 reminds us, do not be deceived. God cannot be mocked. A man reaps what he sows. The seeds they planted, the seeds of manipulation, deceit, and harm, grow into a harvest they never wanted. 3, they face public exposure. For a narcissist, image is everything. Their power isn't just in their ability to control individuals, it's in the public perception of them. So when God brings them down, he does it in a way where the truth can no longer be hidden. Their lies are exposed, their hypocrisy is revealed, their reputation, which they work so hard to protect, begins to crumble. This kind of fall is especially devastating for a narcissist because they don't just lose influence, they lose the admiration and validation they crave. For their inner world collapses. Even if a narcissist appears outwardly strong, their biggest torment isn't external, it's internal. See, narcissists build their power by feeding off others. They need attention, control, and admiration, like oxygen. Without it, they feel empty, restless, and deeply insecure. So when they start to lose power, they become paranoid, they become desperate, they start self-destructing. They might lash out in anger, trying to reclaim control, but their rage only pushes more people away. They may try to manipulate their way back up, but trust has already been broken. The more they fight to keep their power, the faster they lose it. 5, they are replaced. One of the most humbling things God does to bring down a narcissist is this. He raises up someone else in their place. Think about King Saul in the Bible. He was given power, chosen as king, but his pride, jealousy, and disobedience led to his downfall. And what did God do? He raised up David, a man after his own heart, to take his place. The same thing happens today. The narcissistic boss loses their position and someone with integrity takes over. The toxic leader is removed and someone more humble steps in. The manipulative influencer is exposed and people turn to someone who truly leads with wisdom. This is one of the ultimate ways God humbles the proud, by showing them they were never as essential as they thought. 6, they are forced to live with themselves. Losing power is one thing, but losing the ability to escape their own emptiness is another. When a narcissist no longer has people to manipulate, when they no longer have the admiration they once fed off, they're left alone with themselves. And that is a place they never wanted to be. Because without power, without control, without their false image, who are they? They are left with the truth of what they've done, the people they've hurt, the relationships they've destroyed, and no amount of blaming, lying, or gaslighting can change that. For many narcissists, this is the worst punishment of all. 7, the fall is permanent. Some people get second chances, some people make mistakes, learn from them, and rebuild their lives. But a narcissist who refuses to repent, who refuses to change, who refuses to acknowledge the damage they've done, their fall is not temporary, it is permanent. Because God doesn't just remove their power, He ensures they can't regain it. Psalm 37, 35, 36 says, I have seen a wicked and ruthless man flourishing like a luxuriant native tree, but he soon passed away and was no more. Though I looked for him, he could not be found. When God decides that enough is enough, when He decides that it's time for the narcissist to fall, there is no coming back. They are stripped of the influence they once had, left to wander in the ruins of what they built. And that's how the story always ends, your role in their fall. So what should you do while waiting for this to happen? Let God handle it. You don't have to force their downfall. God will do it in His timing. Keep your integrity. Don't let their toxicity change who you are. Heal and move forward. The best revenge isn't watching them fall. It's living in freedom. Final thought, their fall is inevitable. It may take time. It may seem like they are winning, but no narcissist keeps their power forever. Because at the end of the day, God is not mocked. Truth always wins. Justice always comes. And when it does, the fall from power is greater than they ever imagined. When we think about justice for those who have hurt us, especially narcissists, we often imagine something external. We want to see them exposed, humiliated, or stripped of their influence. We want visible consequences, something undeniable that proves they didn't get away with what they did. But sometimes the most severe punishment isn't something we can see at all. It happens inside them. And that's the part no one talks about. The mask they wear, narcissists, are masters of illusion. They present themselves as confident, powerful, and in control. They thrive on admiration, always seeking validation from others. They manipulate their way into positions of influence, convincing people they are someone to be admired and respected. But beneath the surface, beneath the carefully crafted mask, is something entirely different. They are empty. See, narcissists don't actually have real self-worth. They build their identity around external validation, around how others perceive them. Their entire existence is based on maintaining an illusion. And that takes an exhausting amount of energy. They constantly have to make sure people believe the lie. They have to control the narrative. They have to ensure that no one sees the real, broken, insecure person underneath. And over time, that pressure starts to break them. The unseen battle inside the narcissist, even if it looks like they are thriving, a narcissist's inner world is a storm of anxiety, paranoia, and fear They don't rest. They don't experience peace because in the deepest part of themselves, they know the truth. They are not who they pretend to be. The fear of being exposed, one of the greatest sources of turmoil for a narcissist is the constant fear of being found out. They know they've manipulated people. They know they've twisted the truth. They know their reputation is built on deception. And because of that, they live in a constant state of paranoia. They're always looking over their shoulder, always wondering when their lies will catch up to them. Every conversation, every interaction is a risk because what if this is the moment someone calls them out? What if someone finally sees through the facade? 2, the desperation for control. Narcissists need to control how others see them. It's not just a preference, it's a survival mechanism. That's why they react so intensely when they feel like they're losing control. That's why they lash out when someone challenges them, when someone contradicts their version of reality, because without control, they lose everything. And deep down, they know that control is slipping. People start questioning their actions, their lies don't work as well as they used to. The admiration they crave isn't as strong as it once was, and that realization, it terrifies them. 3. The inability to feel true joy. Here's something no one tells you about narcissists. They don't experience real happiness. Oh, they might look happy. They might post pictures of their perfect life, their perfect family, their perfect success. They might throw parties, buy expensive things, surround themselves with people who admire them. But true joy, they don't know what that feels like. Because joy comes from within. It comes from a place of authenticity, of connection, of gratitude. And narcissists don't operate in authenticity. Their lives are built on a performance, and performances are exhausting. The moment the applause stops, they feel it, the emptiness. 4. The self-doubt they can't admit. A narcissist will never tell you they doubt themselves. They will never admit to feeling insecure. They work too hard to convince themselves and everyone else that they are superior, that they are special, that they are above others. But inside, they compare themselves constantly. They wonder if they're actually as great as they claim to be. They know they have to keep proving themselves over and over again just to maintain the illusion. And that cycle never stops. 5, the loneliness they can't escape. Narcissists don't form real connections. They use people. They manipulate relationships. They surround themselves with people who feed their ego, not people who truly love them. And because of that, even when they are surrounded by a crowd, they are alone. They don't trust anyone. They don't have real intimacy. They don't experience unconditional love. And that loneliness, it haunts them. Because no matter how much power, success, or admiration they gain, it will never fill the void inside them. 6, the slow collapse of their own mind. This is what happens when the internal turmoil becomes unbearable. They start self-destructing, they lash out in anger, pushing people away, they become reckless, making decisions that ruin their own reputation. They spiral into depression, but they don't have the humility to seek help. Their mind becomes their own worst enemy. And here's what's even more devastating. They know something is wrong, but they don't know how to fix it. Because in order to heal, they would have to admit fault. They would have to take responsibility. They would have to face the truth of who they really are. And narcissists don't do that. So instead, they stay trapped. God's justice, letting them face themselves. When we talk about God's justice, we often think about external consequences, exposure, downfall, financial ruin. And sometimes God does allow those things to happen, but sometimes the most severe justice isn't external, it's internal. God doesn't have to strike them down publicly to make them suffer. He doesn't have to take away their success to punish them. He doesn't have to humiliate them for them to feel the weight of their actions, because the greatest punishment, letting them live with themselves, letting them sit in their own emptiness, letting them feel the loneliness they created, letting them battle the fear, the anxiety, the self-doubt that never goes away. When God removes his hand, when he stops protecting them from the consequences of their own mind, that's when the real torment begins. Your role, letting go and trusting God. So what should you do? Stop looking for visible signs of their downfall. It's happening, even if you can't see it. Trust that God is handling it. Justice isn't always public, but it is always real. Focus on your healing. The best way to move on is to live free, because at the end of the day, the narcissist is already suffering. Even if it looks like they are winning, even if they seem happy, even if they appear untouchable, they are trapped in a prison of their own making. And that's a punishment greater than anything you could ever give them. There's a universal truth woven into the fabric of life. What we send out into the world comes back to us. Some people call it karma. Others call it the law of sowing and reaping. But whatever name you give it, the truth remains the same. We cannot escape the consequences of our actions, and no one feels this more than a narcissist. They may think they can manipulate, deceive, and harm others without consequence. They may believe they are above accountability, that they can move through life leaving destruction in their wake without ever facing repercussions. But the thing about throwing a boomerang, it always comes back. How the boomerang effect works, narcissists are so focused on what they can take from others, power, control, admiration, that they rarely consider the long-term effects of their actions. They act impulsively, selfishly, thinking only of their immediate benefit, but over time their choices begin to accumulate. The lies, the betrayals, the manipulations, they pile up, forming an invisible weight on their lives. And eventually that weight becomes unbearable, because the energy they put into the world, the harm they cause, the damage they inflict, it all has a way of circling back. And when it does, it doesn't just brush past them. It hits with full force. The 7 ways the boomerang effect works against the narcissist. 1, their lies catch up with them narcissists. Thrive on deception. They lie effortlessly, twisting reality to suit their narrative. They gaslight, manipulate, and fabricate stories to maintain control over others. But here's the thing about lies. They require maintenance. A narcissist has to remember every lie they tell. They have to keep their story straight. They have to ensure that no one compares notes, and that's impossible to sustain forever. Eventually, their lies begin to contradict each other. People they've deceived start talking. The web of manipulation starts unraveling. And when the truth comes out, it comes out all at once, leaving the narcissist exposed, humiliated, and powerless. 2, they lose the people who once enabled them in the beginning. Narcissists seem to have an endless supply of people who admire them. They surround themselves with enablers, people who validate their false reality, who believe their lies, who support them without question. But that doesn't last forever, because eventually people wake up. The enablers begin to see through the facade. The flying monkeys, those who defend and support them, realize they've been used. The people who once admired them start distancing themselves, and suddenly the narcissist finds themselves alone. They burned so many bridges, exploited so many relationships, that there's no one left willing to stand by them. 3, their own manipulation backfires. Narcissists believe they are always the smartest person in the room. They think they can outmaneuver anyone, twist any. They carefully curate how others see them, working tirelessly to build an image of success, power, and superiority. But what happens when their true nature is exposed? Their reputation collapses. The people they once fooled turn against them. The respect they once commanded disappears. The admiration they once thrived on fades away. And this is devastating for a narcissist because without their reputation, without the illusion of power, they have nothing. 5, they self-destruct under pressure. Narcissists love control. They need control. It's what keeps them feeling powerful, what allows them to continue manipulating others. But when the boomerang effect kicks in, when their lies, betrayals, and manipulations start catching up with them, they begin to lose control. And that's when they start self-destructing, they lash out in rage, pushing more people away. They make reckless decisions, further damaging their own reputation. They spiral into paranoia, convinced that everyone is out to get them. And the more they fight to maintain control, the faster everything falls apart. 6, they experience the pain they inflicted on others. The most painful part of the boomerang effect is this: they end up feeling the very pain they caused others. If they cause someone deep betrayal, they will experience deep betrayal. If they manipulated others, they will be manipulated. If they abandon people when they needed support, they will be abandoned. It may not happen in the way they expect. It may not come from the same people they hurt. But make no mistake, it always comes back. And when it does, they won't be able to handle it because narcissists are not emotionally strong. They lack resilience. They lack the ability to truly process pain. So when they finally experience the consequences of their actions, when they are forced to sit in the suffering they created, they crumble. They have to live with themselves. At the end of the day, the greatest punishment a narcissist faces isn't external, it's internal. It's the moment when the noise fades, the moment when no one is left to manipulate, the moment when the applause stops and they are left alone with themselves. Because deep down, beneath all the arrogance, beneath all the manipulation and deception, they know. They know they are empty. They know they are broken. They know they have spent their entire lives chasing validation only to end up with nothing. And that slow, inescapable realization is the ultimate boomerang. God's justice, the perfect boomerang. The Bible says in Galatians 6:7, do not be deceived. God is not mocked. A man reaps what he sows. God's justice isn't always loud, it isn't always immediate, but it is always certain. The narcissist may think they are untouchable. They may believe they have escaped consequences. They may convince themselves that they are too powerful to fall. But what they fail to realize is that every choice they make, every lie they tell, every person they hurt, it's all coming back to them. And when it does, it won't be something they can outrun. It won't be something they can manipulate. It won't be something they can control, because the boomerang effect is a law that even narcissists can't escape. And when it finally hits, it hits hard. One of the hardest things to accept after being hurt by a narcissist is the idea that justice might not look the way we expect. We imagine their downfall in grand, visible ways: public humiliation, financial ruin, loss of status, exposure of their lies. And sometimes, yes, God allows those things to happen. But what if I told you that the greatest revenge isn't about what happens to them, but what happens to you? What if I told you that the thing that truly defeats a narcissist isn't their destruction, but your healing? Because here's the truth. The moment you heal, they lose. Why your healing is the narcissist's greatest defeat? A narcissist thrives on control. They manipulate, lie, and gaslight because they want to control how you think, how you feel, and how you see yourself. If they can make you feel small, they feel powerful. If they can make you doubt yourself, they feel superior. If they can keep you stuck in pain, they feel like they still have influence over you. But when you heal, You take that power away. When you stop seeking their validation, they lose control over your self-worth. When you stop reacting to their games, they lose the ability to manipulate you. When you walk away without looking back, they lose the ability to keep you trapped. And nothing infuriates a narcissist more than realizing they no longer have an effect on you. How the narcissist responds when you heal narcissists expect you to stay broken. They expect you to remain tangled in the pain they caused, replaying the betrayal, questioning your worth, feeling lost without them. They assume they have left a permanent scar on your life. So when you start to heal, it confuses them, it angers them, it makes them realize they aren't as powerful as they thought. Here's how they typically react. 1, they try to pull you back in. As soon as they sense that you are moving on, they will try to reinsert themselves into your life. They might suddenly reach out, pretending to care. They might spread rumors, trying to control how others see you. They might attempt to guilt trip you, making you feel like you owe them something. This is their way of saying, I'm not done with you yet. But here's what you need to understand. Their return is not a sign of love. It's a sign of lost control. And when you refuse to engage, when you stand firm in your healing, they realize they have lost their grip on you. 2, they try to discredit you. A narcissist cannot stand the idea of you thriving without them. It threatens their carefully crafted illusion of superiority. So what do? They attack. They tell people you're bitter, that you're lying about what they did. They twist the story to make themselves the victim and you the villain. They try to convince others that you are the unstable one, the problem, the one who can't be trusted. This is meant to shake you, to make you second guess yourself, to pull you back into the chaos. But when you refuse to react, when you continue to heal despite their attempts to destroy you, they lose. 3, they spiral into their own misery. Narcissists rely on external validation to feel good about themselves. They feed off the reactions, attention, and admiration of others. So when you remove yourself from their cycle, when you stop reacting, stop engaging, stop playing their game, they are left with nothing. No one to manipulate, no one to blame, no one to use for their own gain. And this is when the narcissist starts to self-destruct. They lash out at others, hoping to fill the void. They become desperate for validation, making reckless decisions. They spiral into paranoia, convinced that everyone is against them. But deep down, they know the truth. The person they thought they could control is gone. And that reality eats away at them. Your healing is a reflection of their failure. Here's something important to understand. Narcissists do not want you to be happy. Your suffering validates them. Your pain reassures them that they had an impact. Your struggle feeds their need for control. So when you begin to heal, when you step into a life of peace, joy, and freedom, it sends them a message they cannot ignore. You didn't win. You didn't break me. You don't own me. And that is their worst nightmare. How to fully step into healing and victory. Healing isn't just about moving on, it's about thriving. It's about reclaiming the parts of yourself that the narcissist tried to take away. Here's how you ensure that your healing remains your greatest victory. 1, set boundaries and stick to them. Narcissists do not respect boundaries. They will try to cross them, test them, and manipulate you into dropping them. Do not let them. Cut off all contact if possible. If you must communicate, keep it short, emotionless, and direct. Do not let them guilt trip you into engaging with them again. Boundaries are not about punishing them. They are about protecting you. 2, reclaim your identity. A narcissist's biggest weapon is making you question yourself. They made you doubt your worth. They made you believe their version of reality. They tried to mold you into someone who served their needs. Now it's time to take yourself back. Rediscover what makes you happy. Rebuild your confidence step by step. Surround yourself with people who see the real you and uplift you. Your healing isn't just about letting go of them, it's about rediscovering yourself. 3, stop looking for their downfall. This one is hard. When someone has hurt you deeply, you want to see them suffer. You want proof that they didn't get away with what they did. But here's the truth. That's not your job. God's justice is not always immediate, but it is always certain. Sometimes they self-destruct privately. Sometimes they lose the people who once enabled them. Sometimes they live in the torment of their own mind, never finding peace. But you have a different path. Your job isn't to wait for their downfall. It's to focus on your rise. 4, embrace the life they never wanted you to have. The best revenge, living well, becoming the happy, confident person they tried to break. Walking in joy and peace, completely unaffected by them. Succeeding in ways they never expected you to. Narcissists want to be the center of your world. They want you to think about them, talk about them, revolve your life around them, even in anger. But when you heal, when you reach a point where